Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Chloe Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, agriculture meets a new generation of farmer at Many Forks Farm in Clarksburg.
Plus, Mr. Universe Salman Hamid explores signs of the origin of life throughout the universe and a couple terrestrial laboratories, and why it might be harder in the future to find the reasons why they create life as we do and don't know it.
But first, speaking of organisms, we're only sort of known and understand.
Cryptids, yes, like chupacabras and the blue ox and Sasquatch. But North Adams has its own entry into that echelon.
And a history with that town that is just as storied.
I'll start out by saying Monty Belmonte is a fake name. My real name is Christopher Belmonte, but everybody calls me Monty. Is John 7 a real name, or is it just a book of the Bible?
It's my legal name.
Really?
Yeah.
What is the ethnic background of the last name 7?
Oh, you know, when we came to Ellis Island as the Sevenotskis, they thought 7 would sound more American.
Yeah.
They weren't wrong,
Yeah, right.
unfortunately.
And we're here at Mass Mocha in North Adams with author and reporter and journalist John 7.
Now bookseller. I like that.
Because you sell books over there at that
Yes,
store.
at the R&D store in Mass Mocha.
Is this your first book?
No. I used to write children's books.
You do?
With my wife, who was a children's illustrator, is now just a three-dimensional artist, I guess you'd say.
Well, before we really begin now, I've asked you if your name is real. What is a panopticon for people that might not have heard this word?
It's a style of presin that was developed, I think, in the late 19th century. And it sort of designs it so from every vantage point, the guards have views of the prisoners' lives, so they can't get up to shenanigans.
And North Adams has its own panopticon, and that is the name of your book,
Yeah.
North Adams Panopticon. Does that mean North Adams is a prison?
Well, it sure is isolated. Well, the reason I called it that, I began looking into the history of Coca-Cola Ledge, and
Coca-Cola Ledge, we're going to get back to that.
okay, I realized at a certain point that its story functioned like a panopticon, in that it led me to like all sorts of private lives and weird stories. But I guess the other panopticon is the now dead North Adams Transcript, who I used to work for, which also was like a panopticon, because you guys probably know that 100 years ago, everything was in the newspaper. Things like Miss So-and-so went to lunch at Mrs. So-and-so's, or
somebody's cow got loose and everyone in town had to go look for it.
I feel really lucky because the Montague Reporter, where I live, still does that. The police log in the Montague Reporter is chef's kiss good every single week.
Every once in a while they go back through the archives and they're like, on this day,
Yes,
a raccoon was spotted in the grist mill and we
it's-
had to get him out.
It's so good.
they knew everything back then.
It's really interesting because this book reads kind of like North Adams' own take on Our Town or 100 Years of Solitude.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also I know that there are a lot of like, all of a sudden I'll be in the middle of one thing and I'll go off on a whole side thing. And that was partly the reason I didn't even remotely think about doing anything but self-publishing it, because I thought it was like so unwieldy. And I've dealt with editors and publishing places and they just want to like tame things. And I thought, this is untamable, you know?
So you mentioned Coca-Cola Ledge, which is North Adams Panopticon. People from North Adams know what you're talking about for sure. What and where is Coca-Cola Ledge?
It's near the Goodwill, if that helps you, on
Okay.
Route 8. If you look up, can't miss it. It usually has like some sort of fraternity thing painted on it or something. And it's a giant ledge that used to overlook was a rock quarry or something like that. And from a lot of vantage points in the city, you can spot it. It's kind of crazy when I realized, and I remember taking a friend around when they were visiting, and oh, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. There, no matter where we went.
It's got eyes on you.
Yeah.
It's a Panopticon.
Exactly. I think nowadays it also has an American flag waving from it, but like 100 years ago, a little more, Coca-Cola Company paid some money to its owner and put a Coca-Cola sign advertising on it, and
Hence,
people flipped out.
yeah, hence Coca-Cola Ledge. What I love about it is you throw our friend and our director, Tony Dunn's co-conspirator,
Right
Jeff
under-
Belanger, a folklorist, under the bus.
Right under
in
the bus.
beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with like the first, I believe, 2 sentences of your second chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
tell us
yeah.
the discrepancy, because he has had some folklore that he's developed around Coca-Cola Ledge, this actual ledge that had the Coca-Cola logo painted on it, as to when that logo showed up. You have done further research. as a hard-hitting local journalist?
I wish I had the book in front of me to tell you the exact date, but I think
you said
it was around-
1919.
Yeah, I was going to say it was somewhere around World War One.
Yeah. But it was officially sanctioned, unlike the fraternity graffiti that might be on there right now. But the community of North Adams was up in arms.
Yeah, they went crazy. They had a whole girl squad, high school girls who went around and passed petitions and went against it. And people wrote angry letters to the newspaper about it. And, they saw it as a place of natural wonder. And they did not like this. Also, at the same time, it was when the Mohawk Trail was coming up, and they didn't like commercialism that started to appear there. And so they saw it happening to their beloved ledge. They were very against it, but it took forever to get rid of it, and many promises to do so that did not transpire.
We're with author, journalist John Seven here in North Adams. He's written a new book called North Adams Panopticon that is an overview of the minutia of fun and interesting history around North Adams surrounding this Coca-Cola ledge or Witt's Ledge.
I mean, there's a lot of abuse and violence that happens at the beginning. Let's get into that.
Yeah.
Because
throughout.
Right. And because there's this mysterious nature of the ledge and things that happen on it and accidents. No one on the radio can see my air quotes, but that happen around it. But especially in the period of the 20s and 30s, there's a series of shootings and stabbings and people going into hiding.
And cross burnings.
Yes.
Which shocked me. It shocked me that it happened up there. Let's put it that way.
Well, frankly, if you're burning a cross, don't you want everybody to be able to see it?
You're right.
And if you can see that ledge from just about everywhere in town, what better place to burn your cross than on the ledge?
That's very true. Very true. Which is why I guess they always tried to develop it in a way, because it's the most prominent place. But yeah, lots of violence, wild parties, murderous hermits. Who actually don't get murderous till they move out of town, thankfully. But
It's hard to be murderous and a hermit. Who are you going to murder?
Pre-murderous hermits.
Pre-murderous hermits.
That's my new band name.
This is the worst segue ever, but it also is an interesting snapshot of how North Adams reacted or was in community with people of color and immigrants that had just come here because this was a booming industry town. You've got a whole chapter on the Italian community, and then when it gets into talking about the Black community as part of North Adams, that's also interesting and how it connects to Ledge too.
Well,
we Italians were up to no good, it seems.
Yes.
weren't white yet.
I'm part Italian, and it's only been a recent revelation in my life.
Welcome.
Thank you. I was pretty amazed reading the attitude towards Italians and talking about, things like they belonged with their people. It was fine as long as they were, and obviously that sounded like other things that people say about other people now. So that was quite amazing. But it didn't help, I think, the stereotypes that there were so many high-profile Italians that were also just getting into fights all the time and just really kind of rowdy and out of control. That certainly didn't help the perception, but I mean, whatever. The chapter about the Black community here was actually one of my favorite ones to work on, because it was filled with stuff not only that I didn't know, but stuff that I found out nobody seemed to know around here. For instance, the White Oaks Church being the center of the KKK activity in the Berkshires, or at least in the northern Berkshires, and its sort of embracing of that group. And the fact that that used to be a poor Black community in Williamstown that they moved into, it kind of, to me, it really showed how calculating they were. But also the little stories about just Black community members that also don't get highlighted around here. And smaller people that aren't important in the big range, but Martha in my book, who was my 100-year-old neighbor, she was a lovely person and just really sweet. And she had this whole story behind her we didn't know about. No one in the neighborhood ever said. All I knew was she was a 100-year-old lady.
Which is pretty awesome. What person of color gets to take white people to court in the way that she did?
Yeah.
And fight for her own rights, her own will, the way that she got a chance to.
Yeah. Maybe she took a page out of Mom Bet's book just right down the street.
Maybe. I intellectually knew about Birth of a Nation as a problem, but I didn't know how it was used as a weapon. And so I was fascinated at the way that was used in the Berkshires in general. Like in Pittsfield, when they showed it at one of the theaters, the publicity thing they did was have people dressed as KKK members and ride around Pittsfield on horses. And I just thought, well, that's a terrifying publicity stunt.
Sure is.
It's
Yeah,
horrible.
especially to a town in the Berkshires that has like one of the oldest established black communities.
Yes. Being originally from the South, when I first came up to live in the North when I was 18, it was in New York City, I had this vision of like, oh, all that stuff's not going to be there. All that stuff's going to be gone, and that's like one thing that I at least don't have to listen to anymore. And nope, surprise.
We all swim in the racist
Surprise.
stew of the United States
Yeah.
of America, even here in North Adams. And we're here with John Seven, who's written a book about North Adams Panopticon, about Coca-Cola Ledge, an overview of the history of North Adams from the perspective and how it interacts with that particular ledge.
You mentioned using the newspaper as like a primary resource for a lot of this. Did that limit the way that you could really move through the decades? Because it feels like this book is a little like pre-1940s heavy. That would track for like when newspapers were a lot more of like the standard for communication between like even neighbors.
Yeah.
And although we do come into present day, like there's a lot more that we know about like the early part of the century as opposed to the late part of the century.
I think it's a few things. Partially, I wanted to just map without making a big deal out of it the personal impact newspapers had. I tried to keep it within the newspaper scope just for that reason.
We're here at Mass MoCA, which was the home of Sprague Electric, was a gigantic employer. We've all probably heard the stories about the industrial history of North Adams and then when that industry went away. What's something interesting that you uncovered through the lens of Coca-Cola Ledge about the more contemporary history that you include in the book?
Not super recent, but I was fascinated to find out about the local cable system in the 60s that was sort of rigged up around the ledge. And I didn't know that apparently that was a thing, that people would set up little neighborhood cable stations and guys would charge fees, and so that's what he did. Yeah, like a little neighborhood cable server. They'd get however many channels. You can imagine cable reception isn't great in this valley.
Well,
or
actually,
rather,
broadcast
broadcast
reception,
isn't great.
with
in
all the
valley.
mountains around you, it's hard to get it,
So it was that kind of thing. As far as discovery goes, for instance, I knew about all the battles between former Mayor John Barrett and the local fraternities. Mm-hmm. It was interesting to read the details and things about him, like going out to personally handle fires and situations with the fraternities. And it was all sounded very familiar because obviously I was at the newspaper when he was mayor, and there was no way to avoid dealing with him. He's a character, definitely a character.
It's not quite as recent, but can you talk about the monkey getting loose in the streets?
Oh, goodness, which one?
Which one? Which time the monkey got loose in the streets? No, in the 70s, there's a report about just a monkey being wild in the streets.
Oh, good God. Because I just remember a few. Like, I remember the one that was owned by the father of the dude from Friends.
Yes.
That one. His father was also in, like, those New Christie Minstrels adjacent things. Yeah, so a monkey got loose in the street. This seemed to happen a lot.
How many monkeys did North Adams
You could just buy them in Kmart, But there were things that I couldn't link to the ledge that I really tried to. For instance, Doris Day married a local boy. I don't know if you know about that. He was a Hollywood producer, and he was from North Adams. And so she used to come, and the newspaper would, Doris is in town, and would say, saw her at the store and stuff. And I really wanted a Doris Day chapter, but I couldn't link it.
Next book.
Next book.
You do talk about the rise of the so-called Mohawk Trail as a tourist attraction. You mentioned how there were people that were upset about the kind of commercialization of that as well. But one of the stories includes the captive bears.
Yeah.
We're a little animal fixated, but that's okay.
Your monkeys reminded me of the captive bear part of the story.
Yeah, it's back in, and there was the one place a little later that had the captive monkeys.
That then get out.
Yeah, it was back in the days of those roadside things, which I can remember from other places in the country, the live animals, and I think the bears escaped, but there was a There was an amazing Native American bear wrangler from Maine that just happened to work there, and he would go and gather up the bears.
From their mountain vacation
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
ledge.
I'll spoil that one a little bit. That story doesn't end well.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, unfortunately, just wild bears. You'll always hear about, oh, a bear's loose in North Adams. Like, oh, why did the police shoot him?
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen one of those lately, so I
That's
don't want the
good.
police getting angry at me.
The other big thing, and you kind of start the story off this way, and it ties back into our friend Jeff Belanger, who's a folklorist and historian in the area. Coca-Cola Ledge has a lot of haunted stories or spooky encounters from Coca-Cola Ledge. Which ones do you believe, and is there any veracity to any of these? As a journalist who's worked for newspapers.
You mean like the monster? Are you asking about the monster?
Is there good evidence that a real monster has been seen on Coca-Cola Ledge here in North Adams?
There is no evidence whatsoever. And except for like what I could only describe as a 60s version of a flash mob, where the teenagers went up with guns and had a camping night out in the 60s. And we're all about gonna shoot the monster and blah, blah, blah. And it was like taken as kind of a big, we're all in on the joke kind of thing. At the end, I know I talk about some monkey-related monsters that popped up on the internet that people claim.
It seems verifiable because of the escaped monkeys. Who knows what happened after?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What for you is the most gratifying thing about giving depth to a city that is probably seen by most of your readers as like quaint?
Well, I think I was able to capture the North Adams I know. I've lived here since 2002. And also because we had kids in school here, you know, you have a different view. Working on the paper, you'd have a different view. And I've always known North Adams as kind of very gritty, sometimes coarse, sometimes combative, anything but quaint, you know. And as each generation or iteration of outsiders come in, it becomes more focused on the artist community and the museum, and that's all fine, but it's not what attracted my family here. I mean, it's part of it. The museum is definitely part of it, but it's not, I guess, what we came to love about it as we lived here and got to know different neighbors, and they'd tell us the inside stories of everything. You know, I feel like that's the North Adams I was able to put into the book, and you can still encounter that North Adams if you go to the right places or talk to the right people.
Go searching for cryptids on Coca-Cola Ledge.
Yeah, that sounds great. You mentioned, John 7, that you self-published this book, Northampton Panopticon. Can we get it at the R&D store at Mass MoCA?
Yes, you can get it there. You can get it through me. You can get it on the usual suspects online if you must. It's around. If you find me online, it's probably easy to find it.
If we find you walking around North Adams, you look super cool. You're like what I want to look like in the future. Kind of Jay Mascis-y looking, Rick Rubin vibe happening.
I was gonna say the Jay Mascis cosplay.
I was more together before the pandemic. And then
You look together to me. You're John 7 now. You must have been like John 4 before. And soon you're going to be John dressed to the nines.
Yeah.
Oh God, that happened to all of us.
I guess I just got gonged. Everything is noisy all the time at Mass MoCA.
The tower does not approve of your jokes.
We'll escape the all-seeing ledge and its respective monster by heading to the village next door and the farm growing just along the Vermont border at Many Forks Farm in Clarksburg.
And up next, off to the skies where the star stuff we are made of lives and where Mr. Universe Salman Hamid will let us know how it might be harder to trace those origins in the future.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar in Hatfield, dedicated to custom solar installations, electric vehicle charging solutions, and reliable long-term system support. Northeast-solar.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Eastworks, a 500,000 square feet dedicated to artists, entrepreneurs, and nonprofits where community happens. Learn more at eastworks.com.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
We begin our kitchen table astronomy at the Amherst kitchen table of 5 college astronomer and the head of Kainat Studios, Salman Hamid, Mr. Universe, with a shameless plug that a week from this Wednesday, you can go stargazing with Mr. Universe and the Fabulous 413 at Black Birch Vineyard. I never know if it's in Hatfield or Whately. It's in one of those 5 and 10 places, like right on the border there. It's a big vineyard, so maybe it's in both, but there'll be telescopes that the Black Birch people are providing and that UMass are providing. It's a new moon, so if it's not cloudy, we should have a glorious view of the sky, and it will be a great time to learn about astronomy with our resident astronomer, Mr. Universe.
Bring your questions. Every question is encouraged, anything.
Even the people that showed up at my house to be mad at me about not believing in aliens, come to Black Birch Vineyard and we'll have that conversation out then.
Yes, all questions welcome.
Well, speaking of aliens, which is what we love to talk about, and life, we're in the midst of creating trillionaires because of artificial intelligence. We're making artificial life is what's going on right now in the world of science?
First of all, a disclaimer. Biology, that's not my field.
You're an astronomer.
I'm an astronomer, so this is a big stretch for me. But there was a big news item last week that scientists from Minnesota, they have created an artificial cell that actually performs the same functions as life, as other cells, natural cells. Like it grows, you can feed it, and then it reproduces, and it can do that for a few generations. So that's a big news. Now, first of all, clarification, it is not life. Even though there is a lot of debate about what you would call something is alive, there is a lot of debate about among scientists, because you are looking at a continuum between chemistry and biology. So when chemistry turns into biology, there is a lot of debate about that among scientists. So the people involved in research and people who are not involved in research, they are all saying, well, this is a significant step, but they are not calling it alive.
Why? If it does all the things that we've decided indicate life, responds to external stimuli, all of the things you learned in science class when you were a kid.
It has to be maintained. Meaning to say it has to be sustained from outside. It cannot just sort of like, you just let it go and it will be fine. It will grow up to go to college and things like that. No.
So this cell is not going to do that.
This cell is not going to do that.
I feel a little bit better about that, by the way. I don't really want artificial life to be happening and growing on its own.
Let's put it in context. These questions about what is the simplest form of life, that has implications for research regarding origins of life. How did life start on Earth? Because their chemistry led to biology, but under what conditions? And people keep on looking for replicating it in the lab. I mean, there is a famous Miller-Urey experiment from University of Chicago in the 1950s, which provided the conditions that were in the early Earth. It used those conditions and it produced in a beaker the ingredients for life, so organic compounds, even complex molecules, but it did not lead to life. And that's what people had expected, that, well, if you put all these conditions in, including lightning, so they had like sparks provided.
Yeah, very Frankenstein of it.
Right, but it did not do that. But nevertheless, it showed that a lot of the amino acids and proteins and things like that, you can actually produce them simply replicating those conditions. And now we know that those kind of molecules that are the essentials for the beginning of life, those could be produced here on Earth, but they could also be brought by comets and asteroids. And this is something that we are finding, that asteroids, for example, have all of these ingredients for life. And in fact, more recently, when the OSIRIS-REx mission, the NASA mission, it brought back samples from the asteroid Bennu, and what it found was that, well, it not only has all these amino acids, but it also has one of the key components of life, ribonucleic acid, or RNA. It has shifted the debate, because there is debate whether the life started through RNA world or it started from metabolic processes, and it looks like potentially, at least what it suggests, is that RNA is available, that key molecule. We don't call just having an RNA as life, because we need DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, but you have one of the key components available naturally in asteroids.
And it's just a random sample of a random asteroid that was nearby enough that we could go to it and bring something back from it. The building blocks of life are all over the place, but we can't figure out what really jump starts life.
Right.
Even when we create it in a lab or artificially create it like these scientists did last week.
Right, and so what the approach has been towards this was, okay, well, maybe we can actually take one of the simplest life forms and actually reduce the number of genes that are in there and figure out how far we can go down before it doesn't become life. What some of the groups had done is sort of like, lower it down to, say, for example, 500 genes. That's the lowest it had gone, using genes from another microbe which had less than 1,000 genes. So you can go down to around 500. But, and this is just to give you a context, what scientists did in this case is go the opposite way, meaning to say, to use chemicals, basically these ingredients, and then put them together and say, well, at what stage you have a cell which is doing the functions, which is doing reproduction, consuming food, and so on and so forth. And they did that with 36 genes. Mm-hmm. So you can see the sort of like, that what is the idea, and they call it a spud cell, because it looks like a potato. That's why it's called a spud cell. So it has what they are calling it, like, it has the hallmarks of life, but it is not alive.
Because it just wouldn't continue on without outside assistance.
So far, it has survived 4 or 5 generations, and it has to be contained and it has to be provided food. But they also created a mutant, a slight variation, and the mutant and the original one, they did compete like natural selection. But again, it's a very early stages. Okay, here is where I'm going to jump from this conversation to a slightly different one, because this is where the community of scientists come in. One possibility with this group when they created that was to patent it and then make profit off of it, because once you can actually create this artificial thing, then you can use that for medicine. Because you can imagine that natural cells, you don't know how exactly it works because we don't know all the functions of genes. But if it is artificial, you exactly actually know what is it doing, why is it doing, and if it is replicating, and if it is sort of growing, you can actually control that for medical purposes, for other bioengineering, and so on and so forth. And so they could have patented it. But this group decided to create a nonprofit. And they have explicitly asked a community of scientists to join in. And hundreds of scientists, maybe thousands of scientists are expected to join in to figure out how we can use this potentially for benefit of humanity, but also for learning about origins of life, learning about potential astrobiology questions. And I think this is at a time where greed is everywhere, from the White House all the way to the AI companies. And they have explicitly said that they want to have, and this is the mission statement, their nonprofit is biotic, to responsibly enable and steward foundational advances in bioengineering. This also comes at a time when a lot of the federal funding for science is under threat. Monty, we talked about last year in particular where a lot of the funding was slashed by the White House, but the Congress actually stepped in to restore funding, but there was a lot of uncertainty. Nevertheless, the Congress restored funding to the National Science Foundation, NASA, and other places, but now the White House has found another way of controlling that, and that is about the disbursement of funds. Office of Management and Budget, which is led by Russell Vought, who's the author of Project 2025.
Who you can thank for cutting all of public media's funding as well.
So normally, if, say, for example, a science project is funded, there is a peer review process, so peers are scientists. They say, well, this is a really cool project, we actually want to fund it. NSF should fund that. The responsibility of Office of Management Budget is to provide that funding because it has been peer reviewed. The Congress has authorized NSF funding. NSF has gone through a review of peers, and it gets funded. Well, Office of Management Budget has recently provided new guidelines, which is going through a political oversight on political review of these grants, because they have added this bit that they have to look at that it is in alignment with the commander's intent, meaning to say President Trump's intent, and it is explicitly political because they don't want to fund anything that they don't agree with. So this is a different way. They're not slashing funding in the same way as they tried to do last year, but now the grants are going to be overviewed by political appointees. We don't exactly know how that is going to impact, but if we can go by any track record, it is pretty clear that it's going to be impacted by political decisions, including the kinds of research that people can do, because diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff, DEI stuff, all of that science could be suspect and could be stopped, and funding could be stopped in there. So again, this is something that is happening right now, but I want to mention that there is an open comment period. So this is for Office of Management and Budget, and people can go until July 13th. You can actually go and comment. AAAS, which is the American Association for the Advancement of Sciences, put in what they called another red alert for American science. They had this editorial last week. They are asking people to go out and actually comment on that. American Physical Society, APS, has gone out and actually has said they have a page which says comment on Office of Management and Budget proposal rule for federal financial assistance. It also limits international research. So then it removes the impact of peer review and it adds a layer of political interference. But this all leads back to this discovery or this
spuds?
advancement, the spud cells. Well, this is how science works, and they are driven by fascinating questions about origins of life, and there are practical applications. Sure, there are practical applications as well, but scientists need to have freedom in terms of how they approach the subject. Now, should there be ethical concerns? Absolutely, because as you immediately said, so one of the things that they are saying is that, you can also produce cells that can, for example, take out some carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
That'd be cool. But maybe it escapes from the lab and it's some sort of crazy new virus and we all are in a pandemic again.
Sure, that and those things are always a possibility. But having an oversight about that, how to think about that is an ethical question regarding that, and that would come from the peers and not from Russell Vogt. Mm-hmm. And so, cool discovery. It has implications for origins of life. But this is just the beginning.
Well, you have until July 13th to comment on the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, and Russell Vogt and the grants. I believe that you need to have art for art's sake, and sometimes you need to have science for science sake. You don't have to make everything profit-worthy. Sometimes it's just for the good of the arts. Sometimes it's just for the good of the sciences. And if you comment by July 13th, you can tell us on Wednesday, July 15th, at Black Birch Vineyard, when we will be doing science for science sake and looking through telescopes at the new moon sky at a beautiful vineyard off of 5 and 10 looking at the stars.
And the last thing I should mention, because I'm wearing this t-shirt, and I think I should mention this because this is summer, and it's summer of love, but for Pluto. And so this is Lowell Observatory, the place where Pluto was discovered from, and I was there recently from the observatory. I got that all Pluto needs is love.
Yeah, we love Pluto. Pluto's still a planet to us.
Yes.
And now we meet the new hands taking the plow at Many Forks Farm in Clarksburg as we introduce you to Molly Comstock and hear about her journey to agriculture.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
This show is called The Fabulous 413, and we only talk about things that happen in the 413. So if I step 4 feet over here, but then when I step back over here, I can talk again, because if I step over here, in Vermont, but now I'm back in Clarksburg, which is right on the border of Vermont. We can call this a Berkshire Agricultural Adventure because Berkshire Agricultural Ventures doesn't want us to call them that anymore when we're with them. So we'll just steal that branding item and use it whenever the hell we want to.
When we're not with them, I think that is fine. We don't have to be so forceful about it.
Yeah, we're just visiting a farm in Clarksburg, right next to North Adams, on the border of Vermont. And
they share a zip code.
Yeah, that's weird.
Siamese towns.
I didn't know that was a thing that happened, but...
Or rather, conjoined towns.
Our director, Tony Dunn, this is your farm that you come to get your farm share.
It is. This is our CSA, and I'm obviously biased, but this is my most favorite farm. I love farms in general and agriculture in general, but this is my favorite farm in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
And my favorite farmer.
Molly Comstock.
Molly, this is Many Forks Farm in Clarksburg. You're holding the drill.
Yeah, we're going to go down to the greenhouse.
Yeah, let's go check it out.
Give you a little tour.
Tell us the history
Okay,
of this
so the
farm.
history of this farm is that I took it over 3 years ago. Sharon Wyrick was the farmer here before. Before that, it was just a residence, and this was a big open field. And before that, way back, they used to have music festivals here.
Oh, wow.
Oh, MCLA had like one of those like roll the keg off the back of the truck event here or something.
That's
Hold
a
on.
thing?
Party place.
What if you called a music festival here Comstock?
That's funny.
Come on, it's right there. That's your
No,
last
no,
name.
it's just funny because when I was in my 20s, we had like this epic week-long party at my house because my parents were gone, and it was called Molly Stock.
But your last name is Comstock?
Yeah,
And it was right there.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The transition of the farm from Sharon to myself involved Berkshire Natural Resource Council. They bought the farm. They own it currently. I'm leasing it from them, and then I'm going to buy the farm from them in February. The reason we did that is to make sure that there's an agricultural protection on the land basically forever. So this farm will always be a farm.
So this is an APR now.
Yes, correct. The other added benefit to putting this in an APR is that now this farm was extremely affordable for me to buy and will be affordable for the farmer who comes after me, which is really crucial because I farmed for over a decade in South County, lost the lease on my farm, and that's how I started searching for land and finding like I couldn't find anything in South County that I could afford or that would work, and that's what brought me up to North County. When I met with Sharon and saw this farm, I was like, oh my God.
Well, I don't understand how that. I've heard. I mean, the APR, agricultural preservation restriction, will keep it farmland in perpetuity, which
Yeah.
I think people who believe in farmland and forever farmland
Yeah.
believe in aspirationally. But how does that change the economics for the people that want to purchase the land? What would drive the price up if it weren't in an APR situation?
So for instance, like this farm is a beautiful piece of property bordered completely by a river. So if this was just on the open market, it would sell for way more than the purchase price is to me. Many of our APRs on big pieces of farmland are the state buys the development rights. So they buy that value and keep it, I guess is one way to look at it. And so then the farmer's only buying the land at its agricultural value. In the Pioneer Valley, for instance, that agricultural value on that land is high. It's extremely
Still pricey.
right, extremely valuable for farming. So, you know, the price here, given the size of the farm, the agricultural value is lower. But putting that kind of restriction on the land is how it makes it affordable for a farmer to be on the land.
I never really got understood how that worked both ways. I liked the idea from preserving farmland.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's also really good for the farmer and that the state is involved in kind of, in
Yeah.
some ways, helping pick up the tab to a certain extent.
Yeah. However, on this farm, our APR is going to be through Berkshire Natural Resource Council. They have like a private APR that they're going to hold on this because the state isn't really getting into smaller pieces of land yet. It is part of their farmland action plan, I believe, to start talking about preserving smaller farms like this, because a big topic that came up when I was looking for my farm is that there was plenty of people willing to offer me some land to use, but I'm like, well, that's great. Where do I live?
Right.
Right.
Preserving a small farm like this with housing is super crucial. If someone is offering you land, but if you can't live near your land or on your land, then
Added cost on an already slim margin.
Yeah.
right, exactly. What you earn as a farmer isn't enough to own land and then someplace else to live. It just,
Right.
you know, the economics of it don't work out.
And did you say how big the land is?
The entire property is not quite 18 acres.
So that's
And-
not small.
No.
Yeah.
However, what I farm is only about 3. Basically, what you're looking at from here to the river to Vermont will all be under the APR.
Well, take us to your greenhouse.
Okay.
We're with Molly Comstock, at Many Forks Farm in Clarksburg, right on the border of Vermont. Was Many Forks your farm name for it, or was it the long-term farm name?
No, it's the previous farmer's name. I have to admit that I am considering renaming it.
So just one fork farm.
Yeah, there's just too many forks. I haven't decided yet.
Comstock Farm, home of the new Comstock Music Festival.
Come for the vegetables, stay for the music festival.
Oh. No, I probably will name it Colfax Farm, which is the name of my business. It was my dad's middle name, and I lost both my parents in my 20s, so it might be just like a nice family thing to continue. But we'll see.
So you got a bunch of high tunnels over there, right? Is that what those are?
These are not technically high tunnels. These are just unheated greenhouses.
Of those ones over
and
there?
those two
Or
right
just,
there,
they're just netting?
they're movable greenhouses.
Cool.
They're often called a caterpillar tunnel.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
We've heard that term before.
So all the tomatoes are under plastic. They grow a lot better if they're not out in the open. Okay, so now you get to be part of what happens to a farmer often, which is when things break.
What's broken?
That is leaking in the ground, which is really...
Oh, so it's like a well or a pump
Yeah,
from a
so
well?
a guy is coming relatively soon to dig out all that dirt, and then we'll see what's the matter. But the water's bubbling up from the ground, which is really a drag.
The only thing you want bubbling up is a bubbling crude.
Oil, that is. Black gold. Texas tea.
No, not even that, really.
One of the things that Many Forks Farm does is work with Greenagers. For those who don't know what Greenagers is, what is it and why do you want to work with them?
Greenagers is a nonprofit youth program. They do a ton of stuff in South County, and they're trying to get more of a presence in Pittsfield and North County. They do a farm down in South County. They do trail maintenance. They do just a lot of youth
Farm kitty.
Youth leadership programming.
Build the pizza oven with you?
They did build the pizza oven. Sue Wells is the camp director. The season I worked here with Sharon while we were transitioning the farm, Sue and I met and we talked about hosting the camp here. They come for 6 weeks. It's a day camp. They come from 8 to 3. It's North Adams kids. She does a bunch of fundraising to get the kids here, to pay for all of it, including paying me to be here, which is really an important part of the farm's budget, staying afloat. Anyway, so the camp comes, they do their own projects. They do river projects where they study bugs and frogs and birds, and they do some art stuff. We've had last year, and we'll have again this year, bunny rabbits for them to hang out with. And then they help. Historically, the last 3 years, they have planted all the potatoes. They have harvested all of the garlic. They harvest almost all the squash and cucumbers with me 3 days a week. And we have a really fun time. The first 4 weeks are some younger kids, and then the second part of camp is just 2 weeks long, and those are some older kids from Drury High. Some of them voluntarily come, and some come through a credit recovery program. And those kids built that pizza oven.
That's a wood-fired pizza oven.
That is a wood-fired.
They did the brick and all the stuff around it?
Yeah, I mean, there was a guy here guiding them, but yeah, they dug the hole, they did the concrete, they did all that.
And then how often do you use the pizza oven?
Well, we're still testing it out. We're gonna start pizza nights here during CSA pickup.
You hear that, Tony Dunn, who gets the CSA here?
I'm on it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Your wife has terrible taste in pizza, so hopefully they make good pizza here.
Fighting.
She threw down with us.
Yeah, this is a 4-year point
long-standing
of
debate.
contention.
Yeah, they're frenemies. It's
Yeah.
fine.
So yeah, having the camp here is it's so fun. The other cool thing is that Greenagers is building their after-school program in North Adams. So a lot of these kids get to come to the farm after school, during the spring and fall, and so they get to keep having a connection with the farm, which is very, very cool. There was a kid, he came to camp, and then I didn't see him until he came with the after-school program, and it was fall, so the farm looked way different. He's like, "Where is everything?" He's like, "Where is the cucumbers and where's this?" And then he got right down on the ground and he grabbed the grass and he's like, "Oh, I'm just so glad to be back on the land."
Oh, yeah.
It was really sweet.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm really excited that the farm can I can share it. It's really great to share it with the CSA and all their families, but then to have this added layer with all the kids from North Adams is so super cool.
It's also very cool to see the sign up for your CSA at Town Hall. How popular is it? How has it done? Was it always a part of your agricultural plan? Because it's not for every farm.
No, I've always wanted, when I couldn't have a CSA when I was leasing land, I always wanted to have one. The whole reason I got into farming was connection. I plant the thing, I eat it, I give it to you, you eat it, and that's the circle.
How many people are a part of your CSA?
Right now it's about 70 families. I would love for it to be more.
We can't pressure you on public radio to call to action, but it's available.
Yeah.
Tony Dunn, your family is one of those 70 families. So what do you like about Many Forks Farm here and their CSA in Clarksburg?
It's a beautiful place. I mean, just look around. We're ringed by mountains. We're right up against the Vermont border, literally feet away from us.
Yeah, when you're in the Berkshires and you see that array of wind turbines that are on the top of what we think is Florida Mountain. Is that Florida
I
Mountain?
believe that's Florida Mountain up there. Yeah,
that's
on the other
that
side
is
of
exactly what we're looking at from this farm here.
It is. It's a beautiful place. It is, as Molly noted, it's very community oriented. We see our friends and neighbors here. It's once a week at pickup. You run into the same people each week and say hi, and your kids play, and the produce is just outstanding. And I mean, you can talk to Molly more about that, but it's no-till, I believe, and organic. It makes you think outside the box when it comes time to cooking dinner.
It forces you to think inside the box.
Yes.
That too. But we just love it here.
I think that Molly is meeting with the dude who's going to dig out the well.
Yeah.
Now we're in your garage, Molly Comstock, here at Many Forks Farm. Tony took us out to taste the peas.
How was that?
It was great. I ate a couple, and I'm not a farm share member. I apologize.
No, he's sharing his farm share with us.
You have to have 4 fewer next time you come.
You got to talk to
It's
Ryan.
more than 4.
No, I only had 4.
They're Ryan's favorites, so you got to deal with a 4.5-year-old.
We don't really get to talk to a lot of farmers who had active transition on their farms with the previous farmer. What was that like for you?
Well, I think both she and I were dedicated to the idea of protecting this farm. And so that really helps you get through. Farmers are extremely stubborn and they have their own ideas and they have their own ways of doing things. So I think Sharon and I managed it very gracefully. And I mean, she checks on me, which is nice. And, I just feel really, really lucky. And my gratitude probably, will be unending until I no longer farm here. Just like when I get to walk out there, I'm like, what? I get to farm here? This is crazy. It's everything that I needed my farm to have. And I'm just really grateful that she and I connected and we made this happen. I mean, there's plenty of room in the market for more vegetable farmers. There is not plenty of room in the landscape for farmers. So I can get radical and socialist in my ideas about that.
Please do.
Well, I think people have too much wealth, and that land is the ultimate wealth protection. And so even when people would generously offer me use of their land, it's highly problematic. People think farming looks like sheep grazing, very bucolic and beautiful, but it looks like this, it's not.
It's a dude coming with a truck to try to dig out a well.
Exactly. Yeah. And, land can be beautiful and useful. And I think there's a lot of land that is in South County that is not at its highest and best use.
That's why the gritty North County, where we are in Clarksburg right now, winner, chicken dinner.
Along those lines, I noticed while we were walking back towards the Pick Your Own, you've got a patch kind of near the front that is native plants. I don't know if that's intentional.
I don't know if it is either.
Molly doesn't know, so we're going to go with unintentional on that one.
Oh, yeah. So the kids were working on that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The good thing about having them nearby, they bring more pollinators to the area, and if your crops that you're trying to get to fruit are also throwing flowers out there, then they'll probably meander over and you'll have more crops. It's just how it works. Like having a lot of hotels in one area. You know where to go, where you can get a room. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the same one spot.
Right.
Molly Comstock here at Many Forks Farm, what made you want to start farming in the first place?
Well, my education is in art. I have a BFA in photography from the Rochester Institute of Technology. And I worked in that field for a really long time, commercial photography. And there was this one particular moment when we were on a photo shoot that was actually also a shoot of animals. We had a client, Smith & Wesson, and we were out on a land, like a game preserve, I guess, where the animals are inside a fence and you go out and hunt them.
Shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's pretty big barrel, but still.
And also not fish.
Right. Anyway, we're out there, and I worked for a lovely photographer at the time, and we're out in the middle of the woods. They just shot a dead goat. Well, the goat was alive, and then it was dead.
They deaded
Yeah.
him.
They deaded the goat. And I'm styling this woman's braid, and I'm like, adjusting the goat to make sure it looks great for the shot. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? And then I really got to thinking about the very long line of people and ideas that had to happen for me to buy food to put on my table, right? Like Smith & Wesson has like their creative person who then talks to whoever, and then an agent, and then that guy hires a ad agency, who then hires the photographer, who then hires his lowly little assistant to adjust the dead deer and the lady's braid. And I just didn't like. I'm a very reluctant capitalist, and that moment really just brought it into focus for me.
Photographic pun intended.
Oh, it wasn't, but thanks for catching it. So after that, I lost my dad, I did some traveling, and I came back and I apprenticed with this young woman who was 10 years younger than me, starting her own CSA, and just really immediately was like, just loved the connection between growing food and giving it to people, and that's the work. And then what I didn't know is just what else happens is that, I get to be outside all the time, and I'm really a part of the seasons, and it's so satisfying. It's very hard, and I get very tired, and I get very stressed, and it is also very satisfying.
It it was really interesting to talk with her, with Molly Comstock, about the difference in agriculture between northern Berkshires and southern Berkshires.
And the problem accessing land between southern Berkshires and northern Berkshires.
Which is not relegated to just the Berkshires. We find that all over the place. It's really been interesting seeing how people get access to land to be able to grow whatever they're going to grow, because we're going to talk to a farmer who doesn't grow what we consider a traditional croppy sort of thing.
That's right.
Later on in this week.
We're going to learn about hay.
We are going to learn about hay.
And the importance of hay and the creative uses of land that hay farmers are using and making hay while the sun shines, I guess.
Yeah.
As
Yes.
they say. If you happen to be a World Cup fan and are taking a break from Medio Tiempo as the Iberian Peninsula dukes it out right now, there's an opportunity to watch the USA game against Belgium tonight for free at the Greenfield Garden Cinema with a large crowd. Now, you may feel conflicted about what's going on with the USA in regards to...
That would be me. I'm pointing at myself right now on the radio.
A red card that should have been that the Oval Office pressed their thumb on the scales towards. However, there is an opportunity to watch USA versus Belgium, 8 o'clock tonight, with a crowd at the Greenfield Garden Center.
Yeah, you can go complain about it in community.
There we go.
On the next Fabulous 413, 2 festivals and a theater company.
We'll meet some of the folks behind the genre-expansive Etchings Festival happening in Florence.
And the quite genre-specific Pioneer Valley Ska Festival at 52 Sumner here in Springfield, which will include the band Futon Lasagna.
Plus, a new production from Silverthorne Theater Company, Deep Blue Sound, which opens next week, and is a chance for them to say adieu to their longtime summer home, Hampshire College.
Yeah, I think they have some feelings about that. I'm really excited to get into it.
I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Khalees Smith. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.
I tried and I tried and I tried and I tried.